Because Apple and Amazon are such an important part of what goes on the market, and they now have even a standing as part of the Magnificent Seven. And also because I think I left you in the lurch this morning with regard to productivity numbers, I thought I'd do this brief video and just kind of bring you up to date with what's going on with those three. This is Randy Kirk. Hit like, hit notify. I'll talk to you at the end. Hang around to the end. I want to talk to you about why you should be hitting notify. I got some stuff coming up that you are definitely going to want to see. All right. And then, of course, Patreon, all 4 books, audio version, free. All you got to do, audio version is worth $15 to $25. All you got to do is sign up for Patreon, and the information will be below in my description. Sign up for Patreon, and then once you become a member, a full-fledged member, you get the free book. It's easy as that. All right. So let's start with Amazon. Amazon had a huge beat, up a roughly 10% in the after hours. That's pretty strong. Well, they beat on revenue and they beat on growth, and they almost doubled their expectations on earnings per share. So their earnings per share were 65 cents versus 35 cents. So that's a pretty good beat. And then they also gave better than expected guidance, with the year-on-year earnings per share potentially doubling in the rest for the rest of the year. So that's pretty strong, a pretty strong report. Their after-hours call was excellent, and so that's why they continued to be even maybe a little higher than just from the earnings beat. The after-hours call was good, and people responded to it well. Now, then there's Apple. So Apple did beat. That's good. They beat, but they barely beat. They were down 1% on revenue year over year, but they handily beat the earnings per share. They don't give guidance, so there was no guidance to be given. And then the stock, though, is trading down 3% in after hours, and the call, as has been typical with Apple over the years, at least. I haven't listened to all their calls recently, but their after hours went down during the call. So they ended up about 3% down after hours. Now, take into consideration that Apple, has gone up from a low, I think, of 125 in January, and they're now sitting at 190. So for them to go down 3% in after hours is really nothing compared to the run-up that they've had this year. They did mention that they have dramatically increased the amount of spend on R&D, and that's primarily, to do with AI, GPT, et cetera, et cetera. So they've also got, of course, the new headset coming out. They're very excited about the response to the headset. That remains to be seen. We're talking about getting at least 1 and maybe 2 of them, just because, even though they're way more expensive than we expected. So maybe there's a lot of folks like this that just want to see what is up with it. Okay. So their beat was EPS was $1.26 versus $1.19. That's a darn good beat. Their revenue beat was 81 billion versus 81 billion. So they beat it by, it's 81.8 versus 81.69. So not that much. All right. And as I mentioned, a down 1% year over year. So good and bad, but both good actually in the overall scheme of things. I think we'll see the market up tomorrow. I didn't recently check what is showing in terms of the pre-market, so I'm sorry I didn't do that. Let's take a look at again one more time. Let's look at the productivity thing. I know you think I'm beating it to death. I want to tell you something. I'm going to beat it to death one more time over, I think it'll be next Monday or Tuesday with Rene. He'll be coming back on, and he and I will be talking about productivity again, because I wanted to get his take, because he's like up here compared to me in understanding this finance stuff. All right. So let me talk to you about this again. Workers were more productive in the second quarter, which helped to curb growth in labor costs. It might have even come in higher, but companies are holding on to employees in this tight labor market. So they're holding on to employees that they might have otherwise let go. Sometimes you let people go, just you take any excuse and you get rid of them. But no, in this particular environment, people are not letting go their bottom 10% because they think their bottom 10% might be better than the ones that they can hire if they had to go back out and hire. So because of that, productivity, but the productivity was still a dramatic improvement. So non-farm productivity increased at a 3.7% annualized rate. Hold on to that number, 3.7% annualized rate in the second quarter after declining at a 1.2% annual pace in the January to March quarter. Now, that is a massive turnaround. And that 3.7% annualized rate is way above the average of 2.2% that you see in the United States over many, many, many decades. So this is an extremely strong number. It should impact the market. But what did Market Watch say? Markets rarely react to the productivity report. It just blows my mind. And that's true, okay? So economists had forecast productivity increasing only at 2.0, so huge beat over what the street was thinking, coming in at 3.7. Let's see, and it grew 1.3 at 1.3 pace from the same month year ago, and it has declined for 5 straight quarters on a year-over-year basis. So it's our first increase after 5 declines. All right, I wanted to bring this up again for one reason, is that it proves I'm right. I'm sorry. We all like to be right, but I've been telling you this is going to happen, and it happened, okay? And this is not the end of it. The productivity in numbers are going to be dramatically up from now on, at least for several quarters. And why is that? Again, I'm not going to go into the details again. You can look at my big report that I did a couple of weeks ago, but you now have the recovery from COVID and all of the nonsense that went on with regard to supply chains. And so nobody was paying attention to productivity. Now companies can get down to the business of becoming more productive. They will be concentrating on putting in the new equipment, putting in the new computers, doing whatever it is that they can drive down costs. And what happens when you drive down costs? You drive down prices. So inflation will be impacted. Moreover, you've now got the GPT revolution that's come in, and that is going to add just a whole nother layer of productivity becoming even better and better and better. So inflation is going to be impacted by this. So the markets may not be paying attention to the productivity number. And again, I've said that same thing, that for some reason, they don't get it. And I can't explain it, but that it will be picked up in the inflation numbers as inflation continues down, and the curve on inflation is so dramatically down. I think it just continues, maybe even to zero or under zero. And this could cause a shocking decision by the Fed later this year to potentially reduce the interest rates. So that is the story. Oh, I wanted to say that, to be fair, the markets might not react to this productivity number because you can do the math better than a lot of things that come out. You can actually go and look at what's happening with regard to hourly wages. You can go and look at how many hours people are working. You can take the numbers and add those together, multiply those out, and then you can look at the total amount of GDP that's taking place, and you can do your division, and you can come up with what's happening in productivity. So it may be that the really sophisticated folks are doing the math, and so they're not shocked by these numbers. On the other hand, the street said they were expecting 2.0, and it came in at 3.7. Who knows? Maybe it will impact the market tomorrow. We'll see. All right. But anyway, all right. So I wanted to talk to you. One of my goals on this channel, and your comments seem to suggest that you like this about the channel, is that I try to bring on the smartest guest that I can possibly find on any subject matter. I mean, we've got, I just mentioned Rene. I mean, on finance, you're just not, how much better can you do than Rene? We got Larry Goldberg. How much better can you do in terms of somebody who has tremendous sophistication in running businesses worldwide, having significant business in India, having lived in London, having, half his relatives are in Israel. I mean, this guy's got international moxie as well as business moxie that is significantly more than mine, much larger companies, and it's in software, which is the opposite of what I've been doing my whole life. So bringing Larry in here, Brian Wang, oh my gosh, he's got a website. His blog is considered to be the #1 blog in the science world. He gets 1 million views per month, I think, on his blog. And he's also highly ranked as a futurist in terms of his predictions coming true. So, I can keep going down the list. We have robotics expert Scott Walter comes on all the time. I mean, you can't, how much better again can you get than bringing on Scott with regard to anything that has to do with robotics and analysis of how the robots will work and how much they might cost to build, et cetera, et cetera. So I try to bring you the very best guests, but what that means is I'm also bringing people on that sometimes get really, really deep in the weeds. And I know that these episodes commonly won't even pay their own way. You know, we're going to do, Larry Goldberg and I will be talking about the Cathie Wood analysis on Friday night. That's deep in the weeds of the economy and of markets. But it's really instructional if you want to really understand the economy, if you really want to understand markets, if you really want to understand Tesla, if you really want to understand where Tesla is going, then these are the kind of folks that they can give you an MBA. You're getting an MBA out of this program. So I just encourage you to watch these programs, help build up the viewership on these programs, and help build up your own knowledge base. Because in order to afford to bring these people on, I can't have these programs getting 2,000 or 3,000 views. We need to get them up to 4,000, 5,000 views. But also let me know if this is just way too in the weeds. Let me know in the comments. It's okay. I believe that this is valuable stuff. So coming up this weekend, Herbert Ong tomorrow. He'll be giving some more predictions about what's taking place in the Tesla universe. On Saturday morning, Larry Goldberg again coming in to talk about Cathie Wood. Sunday morning, Rene from Fallacy Alarm discussing something called commitment of the market. The marketing it's about derivatives and about calls and puts. It is fascinating, incredibly useful. You got to this is going to be one of those ones that you just cannot miss. Be sure to see that one on Sunday morning. Monday, Larry will dig deeper into his theory regarding Tesla licensing or acting as a tier 1 supplier to Ford and others. Rene will be back on Tuesday to discuss more general issues of Tesla in the market. Once again, in the weeds, talking deeply about what's taking place with regard to bonds, with regard to productivity, with so many things. And then later in the week, I'm sure we'll have Brian. I know we'll have Brian White. He and I have been missing each other, and then Scott Walter, and then I also took that Brian Wang, that magnificent hour and 15 minutes that he and I spent together. If you haven't seen that, go back and look at the whole thing. But somebody was even thanking me today. I'm chopping it up, and I put that out. The first one, there'll be 4 of these, and I'm just throwing those in from time to time. So watch for those as well. So if you haven't hit notify yet, hit subscribe, hit notify, of course, hit like, and then of course, I'm shooting now. I've got a new goal for this month. I would like to get Patreon up to at least 125 by the end of the month. We're at, I think, 109, 110, somewhere around there. So that's just 15. That's like less than 1 a day. So if you're so inclined, if you think you'd like to help support the channel, or you'd like the free book, or you'd like to get the content I'm putting up on, in fact, just today, I put up the Rene one that won't be up until Tuesday on YouTube. That's up there now. You can go up and take a look at what Rene is saying about the markets. And again, you can do it for free. You can test it. Go up and check it out, see if you like it. Okay, that's all I got for you this afternoon. It has been great talking to you.